Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you, big deal for me. I turned 37 that Wednesday. Didn't expect gifts or even a damn phone call. Just wanted a quiet dinner at home with Lisa and my stepson Ryan. She'd said something about keeping it simple, just us three. Sounded perfect. I got home around 6 o'clock. My boots were still wet from a job site. My back aching from a rooftop unit that fought me all afternoon. I walked in, expecting maybe the smell of lasagna. Or the sound of Ryan yelling at his Xbox. Instead, I heard voices, too many for a simple night. The kitchen was full of people I didn't know. 4 women dressed in yoga pants, wine-stained teeth, laughing like they just won the lottery. And one guy, some smug-looking dude in a navy button-down and loafers. I didn't recognize him. But he had his hand on Lisa's lower back like it belonged there. I stood there with my boots still on. No one even noticed. Lisa glanced at me once, waved half-heartedly. Then went back to pouring Pinot like she was the damn host of a reality show. There wasn't a plate set for me. No dinner, just a half-eaten sushi tray on the counter. And a lukewarm beer left beside the sink. I grabbed it and walked into the living room. Sat down with my back screaming and my stomach turning. There was some baseball rerun playing. I couldn't even focus on the score. Not one of them came in to say hi, not Lisa, not even Ryan. Then I heard them talking in the dining room. Like I wasn't even alive. "Who's that guy?" one of Ryan's friends asked. Ryan's voice cut through. "That's just the guy who fixes radiators. Thinks that makes him a man." They laughed. The guy in the loafers actually snorted. And Ryan, he laughed too, like I was a damn joke. My throat tightened. I raised that boy since he was 5. Taught him to ride a bike. Paid for every school trip. Stayed up with him when he had the flu. He used to call me Pops. And now I'm the punchline. Quick note, before listening, share in the comments which city or country you're watching from, and let's continue. Then Lisa clinked her glass like it was a toast. "Time for introductions," she said, standing up like she owned the place. "This is Victor. He runs a media firm downtown. He's what a real man looks like." She didn't even look embarrassed. She said it while glancing right at me, like I was just another dusty lamp in the corner. I didn't say a word. Didn't throw the beer. Didn't flip the table. I just stood up, walked past their little wine club, and headed upstairs. My boots hit every step harder than the last. In the bedroom, I pulled my old duffel from under the bed. And started throwing clothes in. Nothing folded, just grabbed socks, jeans, a couple shirts, my tools. I took the charger from her side of the bed. Lisa followed me up the stairs but didn't say a word. Just stood there in the hallway, holding her wine like it was armor. When I zipped the bag shut and slung it over my shoulder, I heard Ryan yell from downstairs. "Hey, did he leave the Wi-Fi on?" Not, "Is he okay?" Not, "Should someone stop him?" That was the last thing I heard before the door closed behind me. I didn't look back, didn't slam it. Just walked into the night. Into silence that hurt less than hearing their voices one more second. I didn't stop driving until Huntsville was in the rearview. And the lights turned to dark stretches of two-lane nothing. I found a truck stop off the highway that looked quiet enough. And pulled into a corner spot. Killed the engine, climbed into the back of the pickup, and lay down across the toolboxes and the duffel I'd packed in 5 angry minutes. It wasn't comfortable. My back felt like hell, but it beat choking on their laughter. Cold air cut through the cracked windows. I used an old hoodie as a pillow, a pair of coveralls as a blanket. Couldn't sleep much, but when I did drift off, it was the first time in years I wasn't grinding my teeth. The sun came up behind a line of busted trailers and oil-streaked pavement. My neck popped when I sat up. Everything ached, but my head was clear for once. No birthday balloons, no phony smiles. Just the sound of semis rolling out and the smell of diesel in the air. It felt like something honest. I drove a mile up the road and stopped at a greasy little place called Ree's Diner. It looked like it hadn't been updated since the 80s. Cracked vinyl booths, syrup-stained menus, and a counter full of regulars who didn't bother looking up when I walked in. I sat in the back, ordered black coffee and 2 eggs, and stared out the window like I was waiting for someone who'd never show. Nobody there knew my name. Nobody asked what I did or where I lived. For the first time in years, I wasn't Ryan's stepdad or Lisa's man. Or the guy who can fix your AC for cheap. I was just a guy with tired eyes and calloused hands. Sitting alone in a booth with chipped formica and silence that actually felt decent. I didn't cry, not my thing. But I stared down at that mug and let the heat soak into my fingers. Until they stopped shaking. And then I started thinking. Lisa and I met when I was 23, still turning wrenches in someone else's shop. She was putting herself through nursing school, working nights at a clinic out in Pulaski. She used to come in needing tire patches and oil changes. Never had more than $20 to spare. I gave her discounts, even did some stuff for free. Couldn't help it, she had this fire in her. Like she wasn't going to let life push her around. Back then, I liked that. We didn't dream big. Just wanted enough to live decent, a small house, maybe a boat one day. A boy to teach how to fish. I made good on my end. Launched my own HVAC business before 30. Picked up every overtime job I could. Took on her kid like he was my blood. Paid off her student loans, even when she said we could just let them ride. I didn't blink. But somewhere in the middle of all that, birthday parties, home repairs, grocery runs, she stopped seeing me. Not in a dramatic, screaming kind of way. Just slow, like watching paint peel. I became the guy who left early, got home late, and kept the fridge full. That was it, no spark, no thanks, just expectations and cold shoulder glances. I paid the check in cash and walked out. Sat in the truck for a long time before opening my laptop. I'd kept it under the seat for job invoices and emergency quotes. But now it had a different purpose. Didn't search divorce lawyer, I wanted more than that. Searched for terms I never thought I'd type. Financial audit lawyer, defamation, private investigator, digital reputation control. Every click made my heartbeat slow down. Like my brain was finally working instead of boiling. I wasn't looking to slash tires or scream into a pillow. That's the kind of stuff losers do. I wanted something precise, clean, something that would stick. Let Victor move in. Let Lisa toss my flannel and repaint the walls. Let Ryan record his little TikToks in the front seat of that Audi. They could play family all they wanted. But behind the scenes, I was going to make sure every damn moment cost them. Every dollar, every lie, every smug little smirk. I saved a list of names, law firms, investigators, media consultants. Made 3 calls before lunch, left voicemails that didn't sound angry, just professional. If they wanted a new life, they were welcome to it. I'd just be the one holding the receipt. Tom Keller showed up wearing jeans, a tucked-in polo, and a face like he hadn't smiled since the Bush administration. Ex-cop, worked narcotics before he left the force. Didn't say much, just pulled out a yellow legal pad. And clicked his pen like he'd been waiting for this. He asked for names, dates, places. I gave him everything I had, Lisa's number, Victor's Instagram handle. Their favorite brunch spot, even the spa Lisa used to daydream about. Tom just nodded and jotted it all down without blinking. You want a spotlight or a scalpel? He asked. I said, both. He got to work fast. 2 days later, he called and said, meet me behind the Walgreens off Jefferson. Bring coffee. I brought 2 large black coffees and a notebook. He handed me a file so thick it needed a rubber band. Your boy Victor's been busy, he said, flipping through the photos. One showed Victor kissing a woman outside some boutique office building. Her name's Shelby. Works under him. They've been working late twice a week. Another photo, same guy, different girl, different night. And that one's Chelsea. She's already filed a complaint. HR swept it, but I got the email from a leak. Victor's life was a damn circus. His media firm was nothing but smoke. He'd borrowed money under at least 4 LLCs, all paper thin. The Benz he drove? Leased, payments 3 months behind. The downtown condo? Technically owned by a holding company. That defaulted on property taxes last quarter. The man didn't own a damn thing except his teeth. And the smug grin he flashed every time someone called him a visionary. I took the folder and drove straight to a CPA I knew in Nashville. A no-nonsense guy named Mark who hated flash and loved paper trails. I told him, I don't need a lawsuit. I need verification. He opened the file, flipped through the printouts, and said, this is good. This is real good. He traced every dime Victor spent back to loans, shady invoices, and one paycheck protection program fund that was flat-out fraud. I didn't care about the legal weeds. I just needed receipts that couldn't be denied. Once Mark confirmed the numbers, I emailed them to 2 small business reporters. No anonymous tips, just clean facts and real numbers. The kind that turn into headlines. While that storm brewed, I reactivated 2 credit cards Lisa had once begged me to keep open. Both still legally in my name, never removed. I'd left them alone for years, just sitting dormant. Now I gave them a pulse again. Let them shop. Let them play. In 48 hours, Lisa and Victor booked a weekend at a luxury spa near Chattanooga. They got facials, body wraps, 3 nights in a suite with a hot tub and a view. The bill hit $2,300 right before checkout. The next Monday morning, I logged in and killed the cards. No warning, just flatline. Tom texted me a photo of Victor at the front desk, red in the face. Lisa behind him wearing a white robe and a look that could curdle milk. That picture stayed on my phone. Then the internet caught fire. Ryan, who'd apparently decided he was some kind of influencer now, posted a video on TikTok. It was him sitting in Victor's Audi with Lisa in the background. Captioned, "New dad treats us right." That was followed by another. Old man was just a repair guy. He grinned at the camera like he'd said something deep. I didn't respond. Just saved them. Proof. Tom called later that week. Got another nugget, he said. Your ex signed off on a business loan last month. Joint liability. Co-signed? I asked, already smiling. Yep. Victor's name and hers. She's on the hook if it tanks. Loan's tied to one of the shell companies. It's bleeding already. I leaned back in the driver's seat of my truck and looked up at the sun coming through the windshield. For the first time in a long time, I felt calm. Not happy, not satisfied, just steady. Like something in the universe finally clicked into place. Let them call me petty. Let Ryan call me a repair guy. I wasn't going to scream into the void and hope someone felt bad for me. I was going to turn every smug word, every insult, every sideways glance into weight on their backs. Tom ended the call with a simple, "You want me to keep digging?" I said, "Yeah." This was just the beginning. Tom called me the next morning and said, "They're about to hit a wall." He didn't elaborate. He didn't have to. I grabbed coffee, parked 2 blocks from the Regent's Bank downtown, and waited. 12 minutes later, Lisa pulled into the lot in Victor's Benz. She was in full nurse scrubs, hair done up, sunglasses on. Like the disguise could hide what was really coming. Victor trailed behind her, texting nonstop, wearing that same overpriced watch he'd been flexing online. They walked in together, shoulders tight, not speaking. Through the window, I saw the whole thing unfold. They approached the teller station. Victor did the talking at first, flashing a card and his ID. The teller left, came back with a manager. Then Lisa stepped in, waving some printout and motioning to the screen. The manager stayed calm, pointed at something on a piece of paper. That's when Lisa's face went red. She started gesturing bigger, her voice rising. I couldn't hear the words through the glass, but I could read lips well enough. She barked, "But I'm his wife." The manager didn't even flinch, just slid a stack of notarized documents across the counter. The final nail. She looked like she might throw something. But Victor just stood there, stone-faced, arms crossed. When they stormed out, Lisa yanked open the car door so hard she nearly knocked it off the hinge. It didn't stop there. That same afternoon, a link hit the group chat Tom and I kept open. Video footage from the spa's security cameras. Victor in a white robe at the front desk, slapping his hand on the counter, while Lisa stood behind him, yelling at a poor girl in a headset. Apparently, when the cards declined, he demanded they check again at least 5 times before tossing the room key and storming out. They thought no one would see it. But the spa posted the clip to their business Instagram as a warning against abusive customers. It took 5 minutes to hit Reddit. 2 hours later, it was on Twitter with the caption, "Fake rich couple dines and dashes." The Yelp reviews started flooding in by evening. Entitled "Scammers laughed at our server." Said they knew the owner, clearly didn't. Dozens in less than a day. A few mentioned Lisa by name. One even recognized Victor from a networking event, where he apparently pitched his media firm like it was Google. Ryan tried to do damage control. Posted a TikTok where he looked straight into the camera and said, "Y'all don't know the full story. My mom and Victor are good people." But the comments tore him apart. "You mean the guy who screamed at a receptionist? Is your mom still stealing credit cards?" This followed by a repost of the birthday party video. That video went viral, too. One of Ryan's classmates had been filming that night. And the clip of him saying, "I just fix radiators," hit over 2 million views in a day. People stitched it with clips of HVAC guys doing insane repairs. And wrote stuff like, "At least he has a job." Even some blue-collar influencers jumped in, roasting Ryan for being an ungrateful little punk. Meanwhile, Lisa came home to find a big white envelope stapled to the front door. Foreclosure proceedings on Victor's studio property. Turns out he'd skipped out on over a year's worth of property taxes. And since the LLC that technically owned it was tied to Lisa's co-signature on that loan, the county wasn't coming for Victor's bank account. They were coming for the house. She tried to call me, first once, then 3 times in a row. I watched the screen light up, phone buzzing on the center console of my truck, while I ate a gas station burrito. Then came the voicemails, 19 in total. I didn't play them. Didn't need to hear whatever spin she thought might work now that the ship was sinking. Instead, I texted Tom. "Ready for next phase?" He replied 10 seconds later, "Already working on it." The next morning before sunrise, I drove to the hospital where Lisa worked. Same parking lot I used to wait in when I'd pick her up after night shifts, coffee in hand. Now I pulled in wearing sunglasses and a hat, windows rolled low. An unmarked envelope on the passenger seat with her name typed on a white label. No return address. Inside the envelope, screenshots of text messages between her and Victor, Some from her phone backup, some Tom pulled from cloud syncs she forgot were still active. I included a handful of emails from Victor's employees. One specifically about his inappropriate contact during work hours. And the gem, the CPA's breakdown showing Lisa's name. Tied to at least 2 financial accounts funneling loan money through Victor's fake companies. It wasn't just embarrassment anymore. It was liability. I waited until a nurse badge scanned into the side door. Then walked up and slipped the envelope into the internal mail drop just past the security window. The guard barely looked up. I didn't stick around. By noon, Tom texted, they opened it. Supervisor saw it first. HR looped in. An hour after that, she was suspended pending review. That part didn't surprise me. What hit harder was knowing how it probably played out. Lisa, walking in with her badge and fake smile, ready to fake her way through another day. Then getting pulled aside and told to hand over her ID. Walked out while people whispered behind their clipboards. She'd built the job up like it was proof she was better than the rest of us. But it turned out her standards only lasted until a guy with gelled hair. And Elise Ben said he'd buy her dinner. Victor didn't do any better. Tom had sent that IRS tip-off a week ago, but the timing was perfect. The journalists picked up Mark's report, cross-referenced it with public filings, and ran the headline, Local Entrepreneur Under IRS Probe, Partner Also Named. That went live before the evening news. Victor's investors didn't even wait for the follow-up article. They pulled funding so fast you'd think the money was radioactive. I heard from Tom that one of them actually showed up at Victor's office. And took the damn chairs, not files, not tech, the chairs. Like they wanted to make sure he had to sit on the floor to process the fall. Ryan tried to stay silent for a few days. But cloud addiction is a real disease. Eventually, he cracked, posted a TikTok from the backseat of a silver Civic. Definitely not Victor's Audi. Eyes red, voice shaking, talking to the camera like it was a confessional booth. We had it all, he sniffed. We were doing so good until my mom ruined it. She always ruins it. The comments weren't kind. Didn't you call your stepdad a repair guy? Guess he was the only one who paid the bills. Bet that Civic doesn't have Wi-Fi. I didn't laugh, didn't gloat. Just watched it once, shook my head, and closed the app. The boy didn't need pity. He needed a reset and maybe a slap upside the head. But that wasn't mine to give anymore. That afternoon, I sat down with a contractor in Florence, a guy named Chris. Worked fast, didn't waste words. I pulled out the folder I'd kept for years. Plans for a building I once thought would be a remodeled kitchen for Lisa. Custom cabinets, backsplash, full smart setup. She used to show me Pinterest boards for hours. Now that money was going into something real. Training shop, I said. HVAC, hands-on. Geared toward guys coming out of county or short-stint prison terms. I don't need dreamers. I need workers. Chris leaned back and gave me a long look. You serious about this? Dead serious, I said. And I don't want a damn square wasted on drywall art or paint samples. Just give me solid insulation, industrial floors, and an AC system so clean I can use it as a demo. He scribbled down some notes, told me he'd run numbers by Monday. That night, I got the call from Tom. His voice had that dry, satisfied tone he saved for updates that hit just right. They're broke, angry, and blaming each other, he said. Lisa's out of work. Victor's getting subpoenas. They're eating each other alive. I let the silence sit for a second. Then Tom asked, want to finish it? I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. Yeah, I said. Let's finish it. 2 nights later, I pulled into the driveway just before 7. The porch light was off. The grass hadn't been cut in weeks. And a sagging trash bag sat half-split by the mailbox. The house looked smaller than I remembered, hollow. Like someone had drained all the color out of it. I stepped out of the truck and left the engine running. Not because I was in a rush, but because I already knew this wouldn't take long. The front door opened before I could knock. Lisa stood there in an old hoodie and sweatpants. Hair pulled back in a knot that looked like it hadn't been touched in days. Her eyes were swollen. No makeup, no performance, just her, raw and cornered. She didn't invite me in, but she didn't shut the door either. I don't know what you've done, she said, her voice cracking halfway through the sentence. But you've destroyed us. I didn't say a damn word. Just looked at her for a beat, then walked past and stepped inside. The living room was stripped, no couch, no coffee table, no TV. The rug was gone. Even the cheap little lamp by the window was missing. A single folding chair sat in the corner, next to an empty bottle of wine and an ashtray full of tissues. Ryan's sneakers were gone from the hallway. His laptop charger used to sit under the counter, gone, too. I didn't ask. Didn't need to. I walked over to the dining table. The one I refinished 3 summers ago after Ryan spilled soda all over it. During a fortnight tantrum. And set a small black box right in the center. She stared at it like it might explode. "You remember that ring?" I said, voice low. "The one you dropped in the garbage disposal during that fight 2 years ago." She blinked, just once. I fished it out, cleaned it, held onto it. Her hand went to her mouth, but I was already reaching into my jacket. I pulled out a cashier's check and laid it gently on top of the box. The amount, $1, printed in clean, bold font. Below it, the line read, "Final settlement." "That's what you're owed," I said. "After taxes, debts, and court filings." She stepped forward like she might argue, like the weight of all the ruined plans and cold dinners was finally coming to the surface. But I didn't give her the chance. I turned and headed for the door. "You said I was just a phase," I added, hand already on the knob. "Guess the phase ended." I stepped outside and didn't hear the door close behind me. Out on the lawn, I stood still for a second. The cicadas buzzed low in the trees. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked behind a fence. The neighborhood hadn't changed, but I wasn't part of it anymore. Back in the truck, I didn't look in the rearview mirror. Just pulled out slow, let the tires roll soft against the gravel edge, and merged onto the road like I'd never lived there at all. By the time I hit the main highway, I could finally breathe right. No calls, no noise, just the sound of the engine, steady as hell, and a sky starting to go dark. By the end of that same week, the ripple effects were no longer ripples, they were wreckage. Lisa lost her job first. Officially, it was pending results of an internal investigation. Unofficially, she was walked out with her badge clipped shut, and a manila envelope in her hands. Hospital staff aren't allowed to be linked to federal fraud cases, especially when they're sharing bank accounts with the guy under IRS probe. Victor didn't last much longer. Tom forwarded me the court docs, Chapter 11, filed in a panic, with his name scribbled in like he was trying to hide behind the paperwork. His lawyer tried to spin it as temporary restructuring, but the banks weren't buying it, and neither was the government. IRS froze their shared accounts 2 days later. I pictured the moment they tried to pull gas money and got denied at the pump. Couldn't have happened to a more deserving couple. Ryan? Gone. Every social platform wiped clean. The TikToks, the cocky videos, the ones where he called me a nobody, deleted. His Instagram turned private, and even that went dark by the end of the month. One of his classmates posted a screenshot before it vanished. "Taking a break." Don't ask. I didn't. He sent me an email, just one subject line, "Hey Pops." No body text. Just that. Like it was supposed to mean something after the way he laughed at me in my own home. I didn't answer. Lisa texted me 5 times over the next 2 weeks. Her number wasn't blocked. I wanted her to see that every message was being delivered, read, and ignored. I screenshotted each one, labeled them by date and time, and saved them to a private folder. Same with Ryan's email, not because I wanted to revisit it, but because people like them only apologize when they think it'll save them. I wasn't about to give them that option. I heard through a buddy, a guy who used to work HVAC jobs with me, before starting his own handyman crew, that Lisa was back in Tupelo, living with her older sister, the one she used to call a chain-smoking mess. Word was she was waiting tables at a Greasy Spoon on Highway 6, the same one we used to stop at during road trips. Life has a way of folding back on itself. Victor dropped off the radar completely. Tom said he might have skipped town or moved in with a cousin somewhere near Biloxi. The only trace left was a 2-paragraph article about his bankruptcy, buried between a furniture store closing and a new traffic light going up in Coleman. Then the internet grabbed hold. A YouTube channel that breaks down viral drama did a 20-minute video, titled, "Wife Humiliates HVAC Business Owner, Gets Nuked." They pulled clips from Ryan's TikToks, screenshots from the spa footage, and even a blurry still of the bank fight Tom caught through the window. The guy narrating didn't even know my name, just called me the husband with receipts. 2 million views in 3 days. The comments were brutal. Imagine losing a man who pays your bills for a dude who can't even pay his car note. She had a training center and chose a media clown. My dad's a plumber. If I ever acted like Ryan, he'd disown me twice. I didn't reply, didn't like or comment. Just watched the whole video once, then closed the tab and went back to work. The HVAC training center was starting to take shape. Concrete poured, ductwork framed, lockers installed in the back. Every night after inspections, I stayed late to walk the floor and triple-check measurements. There was something peaceful about watching progress rise from the dirt, especially when it was funded by the same account Lisa once wanted to use for a double oven. I started bringing in guys early. Ones who'd done time, ones who were trying to turn things around. Some of them were green as hell, didn't know a wrench from a socket. But they showed up on time, took notes, didn't complain about the heat. That was enough for me. Taught them how to braze copper without burning the floor joists, How to test a system's airflow, not just swap parts like amateurs. One guy, Kevin, learned so fast. I had him helping me build mock-up boards for the next intake group. First time in years, I felt like I was building something that wouldn't fall apart on me. Peace didn't look like fireworks or some big cinematic ending. It wasn't about revenge or rubbing their faces in the fallout. It looked like early mornings, clean tools, cold coffee, and a crew that actually listened. Peace wasn't revenge. It was choosing what mattered. And this mattered. The letter came on a Tuesday. Plain white envelope, no return address. My name written in tight, blocky handwriting I didn't recognize. No one sends letters anymore, not unless it's a bill, a threat, or something real personal. I opened it with my pocketknife at the workshop counter. Inside was one sheet of lined paper folded in half and a photo tucked behind it. I unfolded the letter first. "Hey man," it started. "Name's Jason. I'm the biological dad, Lisa's ex. We never met, but I've been keeping up. Heard what happened." The handwriting was rough, like it had been scribbled in a truck cab. Words pressed hard into the paper like he meant every one. "Kid turned out like her, huh? Sorry, man. I knew she was poison. You tried more than I ever did. Way more. I checked out when he was 5. You stepped in. You raised him." I sat down slowly. "Don't know how you did it that long. Especially with the way she spins people. But you did. And no matter what he says now, I know one thing, he called you dad. That counts for something." That's when I looked at the photo. It was old, faded colors, curled edges. Ryan must have been maybe 3 or 4. Holding a plastic dump truck, smiling big with jelly on his face. I was in the background, kneeling by the shed, installing shelves. My back turned halfway toward the camera. I don't even remember the moment it was taken, but there it was, proof. Not that I needed it, but still. I didn't cry, that wasn't how it worked for me. But I stared at that picture for a long time. Long enough for my coffee to go cold and the guys to start arriving for the afternoon shift. I folded the letter once, tucked the photo inside it, and slid them both into the top drawer of the metal filing cabinet I kept locked under the desk. Not under family, not under personal, just under proof. After that, I stepped outside, lit a cigarette I hadn't touched in months, leaned against the back railing of the training center, and stared out across the gravel yard where we kept the old condenser units for teardown practice. I wasn't planning on doing anything with the letter. Not replying, not tracking Jason down. Some ghosts need to stay dead. But there was one part one couldn't shake. The kid, he made his choices, sure. Laughed when he thought it was cool to do so. Tossed me aside like I was a busted tool that had outlived its use. But he was still 16, still a boy. And some of the damage wasn't just his fault. So, I made one call, not to Lisa, not to Ryan. I reached out to Mike, a mutual friend from way back. He and I used to work the same routes when we were both starting out. His wife knew Lisa's sister in Tupelo, the one she was crashing with. I kept it short. Just want to know if the kid's all right. Not trying to interfere. Just check. Mike paused for a moment, then said, "He's quiet. Keeps to himself. Not in school right now, doing some GED stuff online, I think. Eats dinner in the garage most nights. Still with Lisa, last I heard." "Yeah, but it's not good. Lot of yelling, lot of silence. You know the kind." I thanked him and hung up. Didn't feel better. Didn't feel worse. Just clearer. Sometimes people think closure is some big dramatic scene. Tears, hugs, maybe a slow song in the background. But sometimes it's just a folded photo and a quick call. Not because you're hoping for a comeback. Just because the past still tugs sometimes. I didn't forgive Ryan, not yet, maybe not ever. But he wasn't a stranger. He was still the boy who once ran into the garage barefoot. Just to hand me a cold Coke while I changed brake pads on Lisa's old Honda. That doesn't disappear overnight. And as much as I wanted to shut that door for good, I knew better. Some doors don't close all the way, they just stay cracked, quiet, still waiting. 12 months passed, and my life looked nothing like it used to. I was living in a ranch house 15 minutes outside Florence, Alabama. One-story brick, built solid back in the 80s. Came with 4 acres of land and a front porch big enough to stretch out on after a long day. Nearest neighbor was half a mile down the dirt road, and they minded their business exactly how I liked it. I had a dog now, a black lab mix named Duke. Found him at a shelter in Muscle Shoals after a service call at the place next door. He rode shotgun in my truck like he owned it, and barked at deer like he was 5 times his size. The HVAC training center was fully up and running. 2 classes a week, plus weekend workshops for returning guys. We landed steady contracts with 2 local tech schools, which kept the bills paid and the building full. Some of my former students were already doing freelance work, or apprenticing with bigger outfits. I had them bring their checks in and post copies on a corkboard in the break room. Proof of life, I called it. I still worked more hours than I needed to, out of habit more than necessity. There's something about cutting and flaring lines. That clears your head better than therapy. When you're sweating copper and reading pressure gauges, there's no room left to think about the past, just the task in front of you. I'd been seeing someone, too. Her name was Anna, worked in logistics for a shipping company down in Sheffield. We met when her AC unit blew out in the middle of a July heatwave. Most clients hovered while I worked. She handed me a cold bottle of water and said, "Call me when it's fixed." Then went back to working on her laptop. She grew up on a farm, had a thing for grilled chicken and quiet nights. Didn't care what I drove, didn't flinch at my scarred-up knuckles, and didn't ask questions unless the answers actually mattered. One night, we were sitting out on the porch, her feet in my lap, Duke snoring at her side. And she asked, "You ever talk to your ex?" I shook my head. "Nope," I said. "Don't plan to." She gave me a look, half curiosity, half challenge. "You that cold?" Instead of answering, I stood up, walked inside, and came back with a frame. Held it out. Inside was the cashier's check I'd handed Lisa, $1, still crisp. Framed under glass like it belonged in a museum. Anna looked at it for a second, then laughed. "That's petty." I smiled. "Nope, that's math." She leaned her head back against the chair and kept laughing. Not fake or polite, real belly-deep laughter. That echoed off the porch railing and floated out across the yard. Like it didn't owe anyone an apology. That's how I knew I was good. There wasn't a day I missed my old life. Not the house, not the drama, not the late-night silences pretending to be peace. The freedom wasn't just in the land or the space. It was in not having to explain myself anymore. I'd done what I said I'd do, built something, stood on it, and didn't fall. Anna didn't need fixing. She didn't need to be impressed. She just needed consistency, and I had that in spades now. Some nights, we didn't even talk, just sat out there while the sun dipped behind the tree line. Her head resting against my shoulder. Duke twitching in his sleep from dreams about squirrels or rabbits or whatever lived in those woods. That kind of silence, that was earned. August 15th started quiet. Mist rolled over the hills outside my porch window like a slow breath. I stood there barefoot, coffee in hand. The boards under me still cool from the night air. Duke sniffed around the yard, tail low, chasing something only he could smell. The trees swayed just enough to make the wind feel personal. My phone buzzed on the porch rail. One message, Tom. Final update. Lisa's waiting tables at a diner off 78. Victor moved to Vegas. Ryan enrolled in community college, different name, different town. I stared at the screen for a second, then deleted the message. Not out of anger, just because there wasn't anything left to feel about it. It was like reading about strangers. Inside, Anna was at the stove, cracking eggs one-handed like she'd done it since birth. The radio played low in the background, classic rock. Something with actual guitars instead of auto-tuned whining. She danced a little while she moved, hips swaying just enough to make Duke raise his head, confused but amused. I walked past her, gave her a kiss on the temple, and headed for the office. The drawer creaked when I opened it. Right on top, sitting between a manila folder and an extra set of truck keys, was the card. The one Ryan had mailed 6 months back. Plain white front. Inside, just 6 words written in small, shaky pen. "Sorry, Pops. I was wrong." I hadn't answered. Still hadn't decided if I ever would, but I didn't throw it away either. That had to mean something. I grabbed a thumbtack from the corner of the desk. And stuck the card up on the wall? Right next to the framed photo from the HVAC center's grand opening. Me, Tom, and 5 of the first guys we trained. We all looked tired and sweaty and proud. Like men who'd clawed their way back from the edge and still showed up on time. While you're here, tell me, do you believe in second chances? Drop your take in the comments. I stepped back and looked at the wall. 2 pieces of paper, one, a quiet apology. The other, proof I didn't waste my life trying to be useful. I wasn't a failure. I wasn't a stepping stone. I was the man who rebuilt from ashes. Who took betrayal and didn't drown in it. Who got up, put his boots on, and built something real. Not just for himself, but for guys who'd been counted out more times than I could stomach. I didn't chase forgiveness, didn't beg for recognition. I just worked. And now, standing in a house I paid for with a woman who saw me for who I was, I felt nothing but clean air in my lungs. I wasn't a nobody. I was the man who made it. Would you have replied to Ryan's message or left it alone like I did? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more. YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.